Welcome to Yin Yoga. I'm Christy. Let's take a deep breath. So we just had Independence Day, and I was thinking about independence as a theme. But then it made me think about how, especially in yoga, right, we're talking about how everything is interconnected, how the body and the mind are interconnected, all energy is interconnected, we're interconnected with one another. So maybe a little bit of playing with trying to get a sense of freedom in the body, and perhaps exploring what does that really mean? What does it mean to be independent? Can we really be completely independent? Why do we value that so much, our independence? I think that's, for me, it's a lot about just honoring who I am as an individual. I think that sense of independence, being able to make our own choices, I think is really important. But obviously, every choice we make has an impact on somebody else, and every choice they make has an impact on the rest of us. We are all interconnected, regardless of how independent we think we are. So let's just let that roll through the mind, and I think what's easier to contemplate is just trying to create a sense of ease and freedom in the body, freedom of movement in the body. All right, so we're just gonna roll our shoulders around a little bit here, so trying to get that ease of movement. So notice, is there a sense of freedom or restriction in the body? And let's just take left arm out, bring it up, we're gonna bend a little bit to the right, and then we're gonna let it come down. And so even that sense of ease or restriction in the body also has to do with the mind. So whatever stress and tension, or whatever stress and tension other people are giving to us, right, can be this interdependence, this connection, interconnection. All right, so right arm out, we're gonna bring it up and bend a little bit to the left side. And then come on back to the center. Let's take it into a little twist. So however you're seated, we're just going to twist it to the right side. Take a breath. So as you're noticing any bits of tension, restriction in the body, you can contemplate a little bit about where that comes from. All right, we're going to take it to the left side. Lift up your spine, soften your abdomen. And then we're going to come on back to the middle. Take a breath there. And then we're going to do a little bit of cat and dog. So we're just going to come out gently onto hands and knees. So we're going to do a little bit of movement here, obviously, before we move into stillness. So rounding the spine, coming into a cat pose. Head and tailbone down, spine pulls up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to let that spine drop down towards the floor. And let the head and the chest come on up. And then we're going to round it back into a cat. So noticing, right, I'm feeling all kinds of uncomfortable sensations, all kinds of tight spots. So just notice, where is there freedom? Where is there restriction in the body? All right, let the spine drop down. So we tend to notice where there's constriction and not necessarily where there's freedom in the body, as well as other parts of life. So see if you can notice, where is there a bit of ease and a little bit of freedom in the body? And not just where is there constriction. All right, so dog pose, letting your elbows bend, let your head come a little over to the floor. Then come back up, straighten your arms, round it back into a cat. We're gonna do the feet here. So bring the bottoms of your toes onto the floor. Push your hips back towards your heels, trying to stretch your feet. Big full breath. And then we're going to shift forward. Let your feet come up. So let those toes just release here. And then we're going to curl the toes in and bring the tops of the toes onto the floor. And push your hips back towards your heels once again. Take a breath. and then we're gonna release that. We're gonna make our way onto our abdomen so we can bring it into a half frog. So just coming down onto your belly. And we're gonna bring the right knee up to about hip height. Left leg is straight. You can rest on your lower arms, or you can be flatter. So if you want to bring your head down onto your arms, you can do that. And then breathe. Working on letting go. So again, noticing where is there like a little bit of tension, constriction. And can you imagine there being a little greater sense of freedom? So as we try to release out, stretch out some of this tension in the front of the hip, or the inner hip, can you imagine a little more freedom of movement in that right leg? So once we've let some of this tightness go, your leg hopefully will move a little more freely. It's still going to be connected and interdependent on the rest of the body, but it might be able to just move a little more freely. we're gonna take it to the other side. So we're gonna slowly straighten out this right leg. And then bring the left knee up to about hip height. And then again, wherever you want to be here. So staying on lower arms, settling down, head on your hands, your arms. So again, imagine freedom of movement in this left leg. But if the left leg wasn't attached to the body, if the left leg were completely independent, how well would it function? All right, so we want this freedom of movement, but it's still dependent on being attached and connected to the rest of the body. So we're gonna let that leg straighten out. I'm gonna try to do a little bit of quad stretching here. So let your right foot come up. And we're gonna see if we can reach back and get the foot. If you can't get it, try taking your knee further out to the side, see if that helps you. Get the foot and squeeze in. So it may not come in that far, right? But if you can get the foot, you can get a sense of stretching your quads. Take a breath. Quads can be very difficult and very painful to stretch. So this is one way I think that if you're able to reach the foot, it can be a gentler way to start to stretch the quads. Okay, we're gonna take it to the other side. We're just gonna try to squeeze that foot in. Take a few breaths. And then we're gonna let that side go. And we're gonna press up. Let's do a child's pose. So we can stretch out the back a little bit since we're on our bellies, right? We get a little bit of a back bend being on the abdomen. So we're just gonna try to take it the other way. So hips back towards your heels, let your head come down. All right, mine's not quite reaching the floor today, so I'm gonna do arms underneath my head. All right, and then we're gonna come on up. And we're gonna shift onto our backs. Take a couple of breaths. So on the back, we're gonna do a reclining deer pose. So this is the way I usually just like to start my reclining deer pose. Is once we're on the back, the feet go wide, and then we're letting the legs drop over to the right side. So we'll focus on the left leg first. So a deer pose is traditionally done seated. I feel like this is a much more awkward, difficult pose to do. And I don't think it's quite as effective on the quads. For me, I can really feel it up higher on the leg into the hip area. And I really want to try to get at quads. Again, because they're hard to stretch. And so that makes this, I think we tend to focus, it's much easier to stretch hamstrings, right? To do some kind of a forward fold, seated or standing. So if we're talking about freedom of movement, trying to get as many angles of the leg stretched out as possible, it'll help with freedom of movement. So just making your way onto your back. We're gonna come on down. So let's do just a little hamstring stretch. Once you're down, bring your feet up into the air. So even here today, I can feel a little stretch. Yeah, I'm feeling it more behind my knees and into my lower legs, but I can feel a little stretch in the hamstrings. So you can pull your legs in. If you can grab hold of big toes, you can pull them in. I'm feeling like to get hamstrings, I need to do one leg down. So I'm gonna hold one leg. And then I'm gonna do the other leg. Oh, this one's so tight. Which is all relative, right? Like I know this leg is much looser than it used to be, but it's still, right? There's a lot of tight sensation in there. All right, so we're gonna let those legs come down. And we're gonna bring the feet onto the floor. So again, we've got some space between the feet. So you want wide feet here. We're gonna let the legs drop over to the right. So we're focusing on this left leg. So if it's too much, left knee comes closer to right knee. Not quite enough, bring this foot out. If you can get this foot into leg into more of a half reclining hero, you can try to tuck this left foot right up next to your hip so that the front of the shin is down onto the floor.
So no matter where this left leg is, right leg can go anywhere that works for you in this moment. So all the emphasis of the pose is really in the left leg. So sometimes I like having my right foot on the floor, other days that's really uncomfortable. Today that seems about right. Okay, so breath. Freedom of the breath. Notice if it's intense, so we start to constrict the breath. Try to let your breath be free flowing. And so here you might be able to really feel this interconnection between the hip and the leg. So I can feel this stretching through the hip and the leg. So these parts are interconnected. But you might again imagine once some of this tension releases out that your leg will move a little more easily. There might be a greater sense of ease in the hip when we're done with this side. let this side go. So trying to bring this left knee closer to the right knee. Let this leg gently slide out. And you can begin to straighten the leg. You can push the heel out from your hip. Maybe bringing that leg back up into the air. You can hold the back of the leg. You can reach the big toe. You can hang on there. And then let's try happy baby here. So we're going to try to grab hold of the outer edges of the feet. The knees are bent, pulling down towards the floor. And then a full body stretch. Let your feet come down. Let your legs lengthen out. Arms come past your head. So notice, how do the two legs feel? And then we'll do side two. All right, so feet on the floor wide. We're gonna let the knees drop to the left side. So focusing on the right leg, and we're just gonna try to figure out where that right leg is going. And then where's your left leg going? So you wanna position your right leg first, so whichever leg is the focus, right? That's what you wanna try to figure out where that's going. And then the left leg can kind of move anywhere it wants to based on how that right leg is feeling and where it ends up. And notice how this leg is. Letting the breath be free flowing again. So we're gonna let this right leg slow and easy slide over to the left side. Gently start to straighten that leg out. Whew. All right, this one needs a little kick in, a little movement. And then maybe bring this foot up towards the ceiling. No, I don't think I'm gonna reach that high this time. Just hang onto the back of the leg. Give it a little pull in. All right, so let's do both feet up. Let's just move our feet a little bit. Rotate your ankles, point and flex, little side to side motion. Moving the feet, moving the ankles, wiggling your toes. And let's do a little bridge. So I'm just gonna engage the leg muscles here. We're gonna bring the feet onto the floor. So even just by pressing my feet into the floor, I'm not even lifting my hips up off the floor yet. I'm starting to tilt the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Even there, I can feel my legs working a little bit, which feels nice after some of this deep stretching. So you don't even have to lift your hips up to get that sense of engaging the leg muscles. If it feels nice to bring the hips up, you can let them come on up. Working on lengthening your hips away from your shoulders. So I'm going to keep mine here on this kind of midway point. If you want to bring yours up higher, that's fine. If you want yours to be lower, that's fine too. Working on keeping your toes and your feet relaxed. Letting your legs work a little bit here. Maybe feeling that sensation of your hips drawing in towards one another. Your legs as though they were drawing in towards one another. And then we're going to slowly let that low back come back down into the floor. Bring your hands behind your head, interlace fingers. We're just gonna give a little curl up into a little yoga sit up. And then come back down. Try to press down into the floor. So elbows pointing up towards the ceiling. We're gonna try to just squeeze those shoulders into the floor. Inhale and then exhale. Curl up a little into a yoga sit up. And then come on down. Press your shoulders down into the floor. All right, and then we're gonna do a reclining twist. So feet on the floor, we're gonna take these legs over to the right side, arms out roughly at shoulder height. So depending on how your neck is, you might be perfectly comfortable. I'm usually not. I usually need to turn my head a little bit in the direction that my knees are facing, but you might be able to turn your head away from the knees. So just see how you are. And then we're gonna work on softening. Sometimes I cross my ankles to try to hold my legs in place a little bit without having to engage muscles. You can also sometimes placing something a little bit slightly heavy on top of the legs or like a blanket to kind of hold the legs in place can help. So imagine some freedom in the spine. So now we're getting this little spinal twist in. So imagine energy just free flowing through the spine, but again, there's all this interconnection of all the different vertebrae in the spine. Or if it's your shoulders that are feeling particularly tight like mine, Imagine some freedom of movement in the shoulder area. Come back to center. Maybe hugging the knees in, maybe another happy baby here. And we're gonna let our knees drop over to the left side. Again, finding where everything feels okay. So where does your head feel okay? Your arms. And let yourself sink down into the floor. And then we're going to bring it back to the middle. And if you like, knees come in. Maybe one more happy baby. All right, so wherever you want to be for Shavasana, try to imagine a sense of complete freedom in the body. Imagine the body able to move effortlessly, just this real sense of ease and peace and freedom in the body. So wherever you are comfortable, breathing and letting yourself rest. Breathe all the way in to the bottom of the abdomen. And observe how you are. And if you like, move your toes and your fingers. Rotate your wrists. Maybe move your ankles a little bit. Stretch your arms overhead. And bend your knees and roll to one side. And slowly come up to a seated position. And then wherever hands are comfortable, on your legs or at your heart. One more big full breath. Thank you for sharing in this practice today. Namaste.